Okay, so describe some of the medicines that were developed in the wartime that you can remember.
Well, that's easy, but I'd go back to before the war. There was nothing. If you had a bad chest cold, a poultice was made, and it could be made out of bread. It was boiled, and you made a poultice, and it was put on the chest. Just anything that contained heat, just, and then it was put on a big bandage that was tied around the chest. And that would help to get the mucus loose in the chest. And prior to the war, the only oral medications that we had an aspirin. If you were very lucky, you had an aspirin to bring down a fever. And then the rest was done by knowledge. People were sponged down. They were sponged down regularly to bring down their temperature, so that because there were no medicines available, you had to use your brain to find how you could bring down somebody's temperature. And then you gave them sips of water, and we all had hot water bottles in our beds to keep them warm. Those are the things that were available, and the work that the people did to make them comfortable. Looking after a sick person took a lot of effort prior to the onset of the sulfonamides came first. And they came in tablet form. They also came in powder form. And the sulfonamides were used. They were the precursors of the penicillins. But sulfonamides could be used as paste, put on a dressing, powder on a dressing. And then, of course, the penicillins came, and they were magical most of the time. Not all of the time, but most of the time. And they, instead of being sick with pneumonia for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, they had the usual 3 or 4 days until the temperatures came down. They could be, but it's still, even with the early miracle drugs, looking after sick people took a tremendous amount of labor and time. The drugs were wonderful, but the patients had to be really looked after.
So you were over in France, I guess, at the
Yes,
wartime.
yes, it was, yes.
Describe a little bit about that, because I imagine the wounds on the men would have been different than you see.
Oh yes, there were dreadful wounds. Some people lost legs and arms and all the rest of it. And I had a resuscitation ward in our first. We were stationed on the grounds of a great big, we call it a chateau. There was everything there. There was a church. It had its own church and all the rest of it. But it had a wonderful operating room and a resuscitation ward. And I had a lot of Canadians, by the way. I was with the British Army. I was with Queen Elizabeth's Army Nursing Sisters. But I was given Canadians. I was married at the time, but that had nothing to do with it. It's just, I don't know why, but I love people. I have no trouble with people. And the Canadians were very nice. And I was there at Christmas. And Colonel Caird, he was the chief surgeon. He came round to say hello. And he said, "Now, Christmas is here. I want you to go down to the town," which means I would have to walk about 1.5 miles and see what you can get for the men to make it comfortable, to make their Christmas. Most of these men were never going to go home. Let's make their Christmas as nice as we could. And I said, he gave me some money, and I said, "Can I use some of this money to get them a little cocktail?" And he said, "Oh, by all means, and tell me when you're serving them, I'll come and join you." And he did. And I took an orderly with me. It's a young man that helped us. And we went down and we found a place where we could buy liquor, good liquor. And we kept it down to what we thought the men would like. And some had just a glass of sherry, and they all loved it. It was the last that they were ever going to have, but with their Christmas dinner, we made it as nice as possible for them.